if you hear an accent, it's true. I'm not American born. I was born in Liberia, West Africa. And when I came to the States, I came for 3 years because I was doing a Master's of Divinity and then I was going back home. But then it so happened that somebody had grand plans for Liberia and decided to start a civil war. And as we all know, those things never end well. So 14 years of craziness, thanks to strong people, especially the women, were able to come to a place where there was a ceasefire and interim government was set in place until you were able to have a democratic election. Uh, if you've heard about Lema Bowie, the Nobel winner in 2011, Lema Bowie, Leymah Bowee. Learn her name. She's Lutheran. All right. There's a wonderful movie out called Pray the Devil Back to Hell, and it's a award-winning documentary that tells the story of the women's movement. And I'm writing her name, Lema Bowie, who is a dear friend of mine. She is just amazing. And in 2011, she won the Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel laureate, along with the president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. They both won the Nobel Peace Prize. So that meant I couldn't go back home and I had to stay here and make a life. And along the way, I got a call to serve. Hi, Eva. I got a call to serve in New York at my church, St. Margaret's, and I loved it. Loved it so much that I'm still there. Is it easy? No, but I guess what attracted me and connected me to this church was the fact that they put their faith to work. In addition to the liturgical services, we're open to the community. We have programs, and it's in the South Bronx. At one time, a very challenging place. Urban decay is a victim of redlining, insurance frauds. People were setting their buildings on fire. In fact, there's a documentary you need to watch that came out about 2 years, decade of fire. And Haley Bay, if you watch it, you may see some familiar places. That was a few blocks away from where we lived. So, you see the famous train station you use every day to get to Manhattan. So, yeah, decade of fire. But when I got to St. Margaret's, it was, long after that. But what I found was a group of people who took activism to heart. You may be the church, but you are very much aware in the lives of the people. And I love that. There are a lot of people who know me in the street that Pastor Bros, they'll never come to church, and that's quite fine with me. But the fact that they know the church is for them, that's all that matters. And so I really love my ministry. Along the way, I got married to a Lutheran pastor, and we had two children. We do have two children. He now serves at another synod in New York. We separated in 20. Did you know that we haven't talked? Haley V and I have not talked. So so this is all,
Yeah, I knew, but we
yeah,
haven't talked. Yeah.
yeah, but officially, we officially legally done divorce and stuff. So, but the most important thing now is that we're parents of two kids, and that trumps everything. As a pastor, as a priest, I'm also a woman, and I'm in this place of, joy and gratitude and peace and happiness and stuff like that. So, I'm just focusing on being the best person, parent, priest, pastor, and I'm grateful. I had a birthday on no, Tuesday. I've forgotten my own birthday already. On Groundhog's Day, and the word that keeps coming back to me and it just lives in my heart is just deep gratitude, just grateful for life. And oh really,
Happy
Yeah, I
birthday,
turned 20
Daniel
on Tuesday.
Rachel.
Yeah,
Yay.
but I'm just great. I'm just grateful to God for everything. Ministry for me, I love being a priest. I love what I do. I still have dreams about what can happen when this pandemic is over, how we can enhance what they have. And I'm also open to the spirit. I don't know where God is leading me. Maybe, I don't know. But along the way, one thing I've learned is, if for me, I have to do things one thing at a time, you know. And at this stage of my life, when you have kids, is somewhere you have to pay attention to where they are. And right now, Isaiah is finishing the seventh grade, going to the eighth grade. Now we need to get that chapter over. And if God has anything for us, I I would like to think God will reveal it within that time frame. Our oldest will be finishing high school next year too. Can you imagine? So, so everything, one thing at a time. Um, Coming to America was an interesting thing because we should always remember that the internet is new. This is something very new. Instant messages, FaceTime, Facebook Live. All of these things are very new. So the America that I was at, because my parents were in, my dad went to school in Michigan, my mom went to school in DC, so I grew up hearing stories of America. A lot of our family friends, we all work. I was born in this community, this mining community, this so of course, when look at the time that it opened, you could see that a lot of the professional Liberians got jobs in this community. So of course, our parents were all of the same. They had just come back from school and stuff. So, you know, the America, you know, whatever we heard about America was based on their experiences. And of course, we had the magazines. But as a kid, if the Ebony magazine came, I wanted to see Michael Jackson. You know, or the latest fashion and styles. I didn't want to read about what Jesse Jackson was saying. You're a kid. That's not even what you're thinking about. But we did hear stories about how the students who ask our parents, for instance, if they live in trees, or do you have a tail? Those ignorant things. And so coming to America, it wasn't so much that, but there was still a lot of questions, and depending on who the person was or where they grew up, you could tell whether they had relationships, friendships, or experiences with people other than their own. So even in seminary, now these are people who were about to go into the world, be pastors of churches, and some of them were just narrow-minded. They just didn't know because they hadn't had an experience. And so there was a lot of, trying to educate people, or people think you don't know certain things. But then when I left the DC area after a year, because after I finished my MDiv, I was caught in a situation. And then I had to look for a job. And that's when, you see, as liberal as the church can be, they're not very open to people of color. So anyway, I've got a job. This opportunity came up and I moved to New York. Um, Working in the South Bronx is a place where I see the how racism and economic injustice affects people, because there were old people in my church who remembered our community when Prospect Avenue, women wear gloves on Sundays. These are grand buildings, but when society decided that the powers that be decided that those places weren't, worth investing in, they lost services, crime went up, people ran to the suburbs. And there was a church that continued to stay open as the Bronx was burning. Right now, you can't afford to buy in the Bronx anymore. Haley Bay, if you drove through the Bruckner into Manhattan, high rent areas now. And of course, people are concerned. What about the mom and pop stores in the area? When certain people's gentrification occurs, there's nothing wrong with gentrification, but sometimes and most times it hurts a community that was there because rent goes up. People can't afford the rent all of a sudden. Mom and pop stores can't afford the rent anymore. And so businesses leave. So you see how people look at folks from communities of poverty and communities of color. Like you're not good enough, or they listen to the negative stereotypes, regardless of the fact that the same challenges in a person in the South Bronx or any place where there's poverty or in any urban setting is going through are the same problems elsewhere, depending on who it happens to. You give it another name. Somebody struggling with alcohol or drug, no, especially drugs. In a poor community of color, oh, they're an addict. But if you're an affluent community, oh, you're self-medicating. You're an addict, darling. Before we got married and moved back to the Bronx, I lived in New Rochelle, the suburb. And near me was a wine store, and I remember walking there and saying hi to the person and talking about the business. And she said what bothers her is to see young women coming and buying wine. Now, duh, I thought these people were buying wine for dinner when husband comes home to have their wine at dinner. No, these women were alcoholics. Understand? But nobody would paint it with a you know a broad brush and write her off. But if they saw a woman in a community going to the store and buying, alcohol in a brown bottle and taking it home, oh, she's a drunk. You know, there's still that disparity on how the level of respect and uh, um, recognition and just looking at people of color or even the poor people, and that includes white people. There's a way people are looked at that is just wrong, and we all know it. And we, as not just church folks, but citizens of the world, need to change the lenses that we use to look at others. Uh, it's easier for someone to build policy around helpless people, around poor people, because they're quote unquote powerless. You want to build a super highway, cut through a poor community, divided town. Why shouldn't they build a highway through Grosse Point, or an affluent community out there? No, because those people are loud. They pay their more tax dollars and blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't do it. Let's cut through. Yeah. And when you look at the language that's used to describe the plight of poor people, it's just degrading, you know. Again, I talk about alcoholic addicts versus self-medicators. And the services that will be offered to one community is different from the services offered to another person who's struggling. You know, whenever you want to balance the budget, and even church folks, or synod wide, diocesan wide, let's see where we're spending the most money. Oh, it's in those communities. Why we got to pay for that clergy? Why we got to pay for that building to operate? They don't have a lot of people in the pews, but they may not have a lot of people in the pews, but that building is central to the stability of the community. And that's what our churches in that region of the Bronx, in the South Bronx, the Episcopal churches, our ministries give hope to so many people, feeding after school, summer day camp, a place for AA to meet, or other community groups. Church is more than, Sunday and maybe feast days during the week. But we're not recognized. And then, of course, it comes with just as in the secular world, people talk about discrimination, everybody sending an application, and they pass by the person of color, person who may have an ethnic sounding name or has an accent, and go for someone else who may be less qualified. All right. In the church, if you look at places where there's poverty and other places, the clergy that serve, most of them are people of color. And when you send applications of, and this is a national cry in Episcopal Church, if you look at cardinal rectorships and stuff like that, they don't even look at your resume with any seriousness. They always look for, as someone said, they look for someone from central casting, you know, white male, wife, 2.5 kids, especially a nice woman of a particular size, movie star look, handsome priest, that's what they want. Now, you or I know some of those guys are screwed up, they messed up, but hey, that's what they sell. That's what they want. And these people, after they flunk their ministries, they go get another church. Easy. These are the things we need to be aware of. Now, in the Episcopal Church, the Episcopal Diocese of Michigan just got an awesome bishop, Bonnie Perry, out of Chicago. It's amazing, So she's one of the truth tellers who's bringing awareness, who not that the former bishop of Michigan is African American, but she's continuing this prophetic voice because that's who she is as a priest. So so there is, there's a need for the church to be aware, because when it's about protesting Black Lives Matter and all these other things, we're in the forefront. We've got our banners with the colors if we're clergy, but it's happening right in church. It's everything that's happening outside the doors of the church is happening within the doors of the church. So we need to be aware of all of those things. And it is conversations like this. People hear the topic race and injustice, and they're like, nobody's accusing you, It's like, let's hear how the other person feels. I'm not Jewish. A lot of things I don't know about the Jewish community. I mean, the stereotype is they're rich, but I'm sure that's not the truth. And there are horrible stories that we need to hear, and stories of oppression, but that doesn't mean it's like, I don't want to hear it. No, I want to hear it. And that's how we should be open to any conversation about race and race, economic injustice, and how people of color have been treated. You didn't do those things, but we all need to learn how the other feels so that we don't make those mistakes, not intentionally, but because that's what we've seen other people do and we just follow the law. It's like the story about this woman who always cut the turkey's legs when she baked it, or just broke the legs before she put it in the oven. And one day somebody asked, why do you, break the legs or do something to the turkey? Oh, I don't know. My mother did it. They called grandma. I don't know. My mom did. And then the real reason was the oven was so small, so they had to break the legs. So that's how it started being passed down from one generation to the other. It was always done that way. So I think having conversations, daring to, hear from other people and ask those hard questions, build relationships, Um, and there are so many opportunities, so many good places. Everywhere is a good place. But especially as students, these are the times we start to build, we can have lifelong relationships in school, meeting people, and not just the African American experience of people of color in America, but you know, the immigrants, where did you come from? Tell me about your culture. I mean, I think about our parents' generation who came. I mean, you went where you got a scholarship. So it wasn't a matter of finding yourself or, you just pulled your head down and you just made it through. And, but now, thank God, we can communicate with loved ones far and near. We got friends, we got the internet, we can chit chat and stuff. You know, use this opportunity and make friends. I'm not saying you're not making friends, but get to know about the other. And these conversations, like First Fridays and stuff, they're amazing because I hope you can feel safe and express your vulnerability. Like, I don't know what to do, and then someone will take your hand and say, you know what, let's do this together. Um, yeah, more about yeah. I guess
That's
I'll
great,
stop now
Teddy.
and
Thank
ask
you.
you.
That's why I love Teddy. You guys are sort of seeing a glimpse into how wonderful